to start with again, to summarize yesterday's discussion, so where Kronos application gets data from HR application. So on a regular basis, employee HR data will be imported to Kronos application. So where all the users data gets updated, and the employee's tasks or to do means where they'll log their time. There are other actions also that they'll perform, but let's consider means they are doing only means punches for now. So when means after at the end of the pay periods or for each pay period, where employees will check or review their time cards, and they'll provide their approval on the time cards. The next step is managers will review, and if changes or needs to be done, then managers will edit or perform changes to their reportees time cards, and after that they'll also perform their approvals and sign off the time cards. So once the time cards are signed off, they are good for payroll processing, and we cannot make any changes or edits to the time cards. There are other ways where we can still edit the signed off time cards that we'll discuss maybe if time permits today, otherwise we'll discuss in the next session. So and then payroll manager will extract all the signed off time cards, data of signed off time cards, and then payroll is processed at the payroll application, where employees will receive their paychecks according to the hours that they have worked. Okay, so in this case, it depends on organization to organization. So in some organizations, they'll not follow like employee approval, where directly managers will review and approve the time cards without any employees approval. It depends how they want to proceed, or based on their convenience, or they'll follow that. But this is the standard practice or standard procedure where everyone will follow, where employees will approve their time cards, then managers will approve and signing off the time cards. Again, in few organizations where managers will not perform any sign-offs, sign-off process will be handled by payroll managers itself. So it again, as I said, it depends on organization to organization how they want to handle the sign-off or approval process. The same one is in graphical thing. I mean, in a graph where employees will try to punch at the clocks or application where they log their time, and they'll perform their approvals. Managers will review and perform their approvals and perform sign-offs. Then the data is sent to the payroll application, where payroll is processed and the employee will receive the paycheck for the hours that they have worked. Okay, and there are a couple of common tasks that for each user, which we had discussed a bit of them in the yesterday session. Employee common tasks are to first thing is where the basic or main task is to punch or log their time whenever they come for work, or when they are leaving for the day, or when they are taking breaks in between. And they can also they'll also be able to view their schedules, in which shift that employees are scheduled for any period, so they can view their schedule time. And they can request non-work time, means they can request time offs. So when they are not well or when they want to take vacation, they can use their leave balances and use them and request them or add them in the time card, so that they'll be paid for those hours which they are not actually working. Okay, approve time cards, we are aware. And last one is transfer the hours to a different areas or different departments. So when employees are working under different departments or different accounts or under different jobs, so they'll be able to do transfers to those departments for the hours that they have worked. So let's say last means in the afternoon session, other employee worked under a different department. So in that case, employee will perform transfer, so that all those hours are tracked under that particular department or that particular job. So these are the common tasks. There can be other tasks like employees can also view their accrual balances, or they can run a couple of basic reports like time detail reports. So those are all additional based on their convenience, but these are the common tasks like all the employees will usually do. As you are aware, you can stop me at any point of time. Okay, if you have any queries.
When you said transfers to different area, you mean is it different departments or cost centers or
anything means I will discuss. We can define what all labor levels that we want as part of tracking the labor. So usually, the common ones again, there are like facilities, departments, cost centers, jobs. All these are different labor levels that we can define. if organization is in multiple regions, then region can also be defined as a labor level. So like that, so we'll discuss about
for
all of
everything,
them.
the
So
source
basically,
is HR.
yeah, correct. So it's HR.
Okay.
Suppose if we have a new department, yeah, then we need to create that department in Kronos application so that employees can perform transfers to them, and we can also assign the default or home labor accounts for users. I mean, for all the employees, which means by default, whatever hours that employees are working will be considered under those accounts. Okay. Yeah. Moving on to manager common tasks. As we are aware, like managers will review the time cards for all their reportees and perform. And if they want to know if there are any exceptions or missed punches. So missed punches means when there is no associated in or out punch. Either there may be many reasons, like either employee missed to punch out while going out for the day, or due to some issue the punch did not flow from device to time card. Whatever may be the reason, if there is no associated in or out punch, then application cannot calculate the total number of hours that employees have worked for that day or for that shift. I'll show you that also when we discuss about time cards. So in those cases, yeah, where the application cannot calculate the shift totals for that day or for that shift. So obviously, when there are no shift total hours, employee will not be paid for those hours. So always managers will review for the missed punches and any other exceptions if they want to take care of during their review process, means while reviewing the time cards. Yeah, and managers can also enter time for their reportees. So when employee, suppose if employees can sick leave continuously for entire week or any time, so in that case, managers can add sick time or any other pay codes in their respective employees' time cards. And managers will handle the shifts and schedules for their reportees, in which shift that employees has to come and take care of their day-to-day tasks. So that is also their common task. And this one where approve and review overtime. So this one is for some organizations where they want overtime also to be approved. So whatever overtime hours that employees are working, so that should be approved by their respective managers. Then only they'll be paid as overtime. Yeah. So let's say if any employee worked some 4 hours of overtime and if manager approves only 3 hours, so in that case only 3 hours will be paid as overtime, and the other another that 1 hour will be paid as regular pay. So in those organizations, yeah, managers responsibility or common task is also to approve or review the overtimes that employees have worked. Okay, and they can also perform transfers for their reportees. If employee worked under different account, again as we discussed, in place of employee, managers can also do those transfers. Basically, managers can edit their reportees time card and perform approvals and sign off on their time cards. They have to ensure that employees' time cards are good for payroll processing, so that there won't be any pay issues for employees. The other user is payroll manager, so who will review all the employees' time cards and run a couple of reports before extracting. We can also run reports in the application, which we'll discuss. So they'll review and run on the interfaces to extract the data, all the time card signed off data, and that will be sent to payroll application where payroll is processed. So the last one is what I said we'll discuss shortly, where we can make corrections to the pay periods, previous pay periods. So let's consider a scenario where employee missed to add punches for Friday. Let's say some 4 hours, where employee worked 4 hours on Friday, but he missed to add, or somehow for some reason there are no punches for those 4 hours. Employee missed and manager also missed to review, and finally employees, after seeing the paycheck or later when employee checked the time card, then he realized that he is missing those 4 hours. So then he can report to manager, and manager will take it forward to payroll manager to add those or make corrections to the previous pay periods for paying those 4 hours. So in that case, we can, there is an option where we can edit the signed off time cards. I'll demonstrate and I'll explain you in detail all that. So for now, you understand. So that payroll managers can edit the sign off time cards, and they'll make corrections, like they'll add those 4 hours in the, let's say for last Friday. Okay, means last or last Friday, or it can be in any period in the past. So it can be last week, or it can be for last month. So for any period, if they want, we can edit or make corrections to the signed off periods. So when the correction is made to the previous pay period, so those 4 hours will reflect in our current pay period. So example, if that employee would have worked some, let's say, in the current pay period, if employee works, let's say some 30 hours. So while processing the payroll for current pay period, so employee will be paid 34 hours, means 30 hours of current pay period plus those 4 correction hours, means historical hours. So that will be processed, means or paid when the payroll is processed for current pay period. So for whichever week that employee is working, so that week will be processed, right? Maybe next week, next Monday, or next in the next week they'll process for this week's data, right? So that time he'll receive pay for 34 hours instead of 30 hours. So those 4 hours are for.
Can that be split, like 30 hours for the current period and 4 hours for the previous month against the pay code or whatever it is?
Yeah, it'll show us in the time cards. So like what are all the historical hours? Yeah, but it'll be effective in the current pay period for whichever pay period that they are going to pay.
I mean, can I show us? That's fine. I think time card is fine, but when it comes to payment to an employee, we actually have to segregate that this 4 hours is for your previous period, and this is for
exactly. There will be date, like for which date those hours are for. Yeah, those dates will be there, and how many hours for each day. Because it will be there. Not because we cannot suppose if you are making changes for 2 days in the past, let's say on Monday 2 hours and Friday 2 hours. So in that case, it will show us in the current pay period for which day, how many hours, and for and under which pay code. So everything it will show us. Yeah, I'll show you that also.
Okay.
So basically, payroll managers will take care of those type of corrections to the previous pay periods as well. Yeah, any queries so far? Yeah, coming next one is regarding architecture that we have for Kronos application. It's the normal basic client server architecture only. We'll have a database server, and customers or users will be using from the client end. Yeah, in between we'll have web and application servers to process those requests, and which will fetch us the data from the database and show us in the front end. Same thing when we are saving something. Let's say if we are adding punches to the time card and saving it, web and app servers will process that and save that data to the database. Okay. And this client can be, as we discussed, can be mobile apps, or it can be the Kronos devices or clocks, or it can be any web application or web portals URLs. And depending on the
software somewhere in the market, because Hyderabad is famous for that.
Which one?
I mean, the independent software that can be loaded into our personal laptop.
Yeah, it can be loaded, but it comes with licenses. Means we can install into our application, means into our systems. Yeah, but in order to load employees, or in order to import employees, we should have licenses for each of them. So then only we'll be able to import or use them. Yeah, but it is available. Yeah, because I did completely on my own. I installed in my VM.
How much does it cost if it's for a personal independent license?
Yeah, for that I'm not sure, because there will be some pricing models for each licenses, and I think they'll sell licenses only for customers. They'll not sell individually for others.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, this is the normal architecture, and depending on the customer load or for effective handling the loads, we can have multiple application servers, multiple web servers in between to handle the load. Basically, suppose if we have more number of devices, let's say some 200 or 300 devices for any customer, so in that case we can have a dedicated web and application server to process the WDM, that is device load. And similarly, depending on the employee strength, also employee count, let's say if we have 10,000 employees, so then we can have 2 or 3 application servers to handle all the load, because it has to process all the data, devices load, and interfaces, and many people will be running reports. So for handling all that and to balance the load, we can have multiple application servers installed. Okay. Let's go to time card. Let me share the application. Let's discuss about the important time cards. So we'll discuss about all these genies and all. in the next session. For now, yeah, we can access time cards. Yeah, if you want to access time cards directly, we can double click on any of the employee record. Right, so I'm double clicking on this. So this will directly take me to that time card of that employee. Or we can select multiple employees by using Shift or Control keys and then use Go to Time Cards. So it will take us to time cards and we'll be able to view our time cards for all these employees. So we can toggle, toggle between them. So we can toggle between each employee by using this next arrows or directly selecting employees from here. Yeah, for this, so we can select the time period for which time period we want to see the time card. So using this drop down, basically current pay period means, so depending on the pay period. So for this employee, pay period is weekly. So that's why when we select current pay period, it will show us data for current week. Okay, and when we select the previous pay period, it will show data for previous week. If any for other employees, if their pay period is bi-weekly, so in that case, we'll obviously see data for 2 weeks. When we select the current pay period, it will show data for 2 weeks. And we say select the previous pay period, and it will show data for the last 2 weeks. Similarly, month means, yeah, it will show data for current month if we select current pay period, and the previous pay period means it will show data for the last month. And we can also, these are all predefined or easy options. Suppose if I want to see data from week to date, then we can quickly select starting of the week until today, for last 30 days or yesterday today. So these are by default, there are options where we can select current pay period, previous pay period, and next pay period we have discussed, right? Similarly, we will also have previous schedule period, current schedule period, and next schedule period. So these are used for scheduling purposes. Yeah, we'll discuss about that later, but mostly they'll be same pay period one only. There will be rarely where they'll assign pay period as weekly and schedule period as bi-weekly. So in those cases, when I select current schedule period, it will show me 2 weeks data instead of 1 week. I'll show you where we can define how the pay period is defined. So whether it is weekly or bi-weekly and all. Yeah, I'll show you and I'll explain in detail. So for now, yeah, whichever one option that we select, the time card will be shown for that period. And we can also select or select for range of dates. Suppose if I want to see data for last month or for starting from Jan 1st, or I want to see for last 6 months. So yeah, we can use this range of dates by selecting the start date and end date. So when we select, let's say if I select starting from Jan 1st until 31st, then yeah, for whichever range of dates that we have selected, the data will be, time card data will be shown for that period. The time card layout, yeah, most of the fields are self-explanatory, but I'll quickly go through. So for which date the time card data is, and here we'll be able to see the shifts or schedule information. So in which shift that employee is scheduled for this day. So for first 3 days, employee is scheduled for 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Whereas for the next Thursday and Friday, he's scheduled in 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift.
Can they be edited there, or is there? I mean, is it defined in the background? I mean, from a Kronos point of view.
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat that? Yeah, can you ask that again, please?
Yeah, are the schedules editable now, or is it fixed at the background?
Yeah, we can make changes to shifts, but not in the time card. If you want to make changes to schedules,
that's fine.
Then we,
yeah. I mean to say, just like for example, maybe a manager can go and just change it on the spot or something like that. Or he has to just go to schedules and change it.
Yeah, he has to go to schedules and make all the changes, whatever changes.
Not here.
We can, in time card, we'll just view what schedule that or what shift that employees are assigned to for those days.
Because many clients actually feel the pain of having it defined at the background. So they actually say that we want something instant where we can just for tomorrow or maybe for a week, we can do it and then give it. Something like that. Okay, fine.
Yeah, we'll discuss entire scheduling tasks and functionalities.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, right.
This part we can just go a little quicker in terms of the timesheet or maybe schedule. So these are something like
definitely.
Maybe mostly on the payrolls, and we can spend much time there. Okay, fine.
So these in and out punches, all those self-explanatory. And when I'll just add for 1 or 2 days. We discussed like the transfers, right? So that they'll be doing using this transfer option. Okay.
Okay. Is it transferred to a different department, such like things?
Sorry, transfer?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they can click on search here. So as we logged in as super user, so we are able to see all the jobs or all the cost centers or all the departments here. But when we log in as particular employee or manager, they'll be able to see only the entries or departments that they are eligible for, or to whichever that we have provided access to them. So they can perform, they can select whichever that they want to transfer, they can select and apply, so that there will be a transfer for those. And I'll also show you of things. Yeah, when we want to add multiple things, then we can use insert row and add.
Okay.
These
like the breaks or maybe
when employees are punching at the clocks, all these automatically will be populated. Suppose if they take means first punch, always the first punch will be considered as in punch, and the next punch whenever he punches again, so that will be taken as out punch, and it's so on. So based on the time that they are working, the shift totals are calculated. And if we see 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but we are seeing, if we calculate 3 plus 5, it should be 8 hours, but here we are seeing it as 7.5 hours, because there is automatic lunch deduction that is applied to this employee. So that half an hour is being deducted. That's why we are seeing that 30 minutes of deduction. So all these calculations happens based on the rules and policies that are assigned to the employee. So finally, we'll see the shift totals. And there are other things also, like to which pay code those hours should go. So all that will be controlled by the pay rules that are assigned to the employees. So if we see automatically some hours are considered under evening pay code. So that basically employees will not do any logging, like I worked in evening shift, so I'll log evening 4 hours or regular 5 hours like that. Employees will be coming when they'll be punching in and punching out, and depending on the rules that are assigned, the pay codes or shift totals, overtimes, so everything will be calculated based on the rules that are applied for the employees. So when coming to this shift column, as we saw, so the number of hours that employee worked on that day, on that shift, so we'll see it as a shift total. And daily column will include all the hours for that day. So here we could see 3 plus 4, so total for the entire day 7 hours in the daily column. And period column is the cumulative balances. So where we could say that means as of Tuesday, employee worked 14.5 hours as of Tuesday. And if there are some more hours on Wednesday, so then as of that date, 23 hours. And when employee wants to use any pay code, like sick or vacation, they'll be using in this pay code column, and amount is for this pay code. So let's say if I had vacation of some 4 or 8 hours. This amount is for the number of hours or the amount of hours for the pay code. Okay, so like this will where employees will be adding the hours and punches, so that the totals, shift totals and period totals we could see here. And depending on the hours that employees are working, so we could see exceptions. These red highlights are called as exceptions. So exceptions will show up when employees are not working as per the schedules. So if they are not working as per a particular schedule. So here employees are scheduled to work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. but employees come in at 8. So that's why it shows exception as late in. Let me show you that.
Late entry,
Late in. So all these exceptions also we can configure, like when it has to show a late in, like immediately when employee comes 5 minutes late to their scheduled start time, at that time itself we want to show it as a late-in, or after half an hour only, then it has to trigger that late-in exception. So if 30 minutes means, then if employee comes in at 8:15 or 8:20, then there won't be any exception, because it triggers exception only when employee comes after 8:30. The other exceptions there are, we can configure, or like we saw, late in, similarly early in or early out, late out, and we can also configure exceptions like short shifts, long intervals, those exceptions also. We'll discuss how to configure them later. Yeah, but when there is something not as per the schedule, then definitely we'll be able to see exceptions showing in as a highlight for managers to recognize that something is not as per the schedule. So if we see on Wednesday, yeah, employee worked as per the schedule, like 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's why we do not see any exceptions for Wednesday. And again, as I mentioned, if there is any missed punch, so when there is no associated in or out punch, that is called as missed punch. So when there is a missed punch in the time card, so application cannot calculate the shift total. As we could see, Monday there are no hours. So obviously when there are no hours means, finally for this employee will be paid only 23.5 hours, where employee would have worked some hours on Monday. If we give 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. So then there we'll get the exact hours. So actually employee should have paid 31 hours. But if manager is not fixing those missed punches, then employee will miss pay for those. So that's why managers will always review for any missed punches and fix them accordingly. Okay, when we don't have any punch, or if you want to delete the punches for the entire day, we can use this delete row. So that will delete all the punches. And when there are no punches for any scheduled shift or scheduled day, then we'll see an exception at the day, on the day itself, on the date itself. Okay, so which means this employee is scheduled to work on Monday, but there are no punches for it, which means employee is absent for the day, right? So by default, absent is considered as unexcused absence. So that's why when we go and I'm trying to hover mouse that day, so it will show me it as an unexcused absence. So yeah, it will show it as unexcused absence by default, like how it showed late in or late out here, the same way. And moving on to other things, yeah, this calculate totals and save. So those are, suppose if I want to see how employee will be paid, or which pay codes will be paid to employees when they are working in a particular punches, when they have particular punches. So without saving, we can, if you want to see how it actually pays or calculates the totals, then we can click on that calculate totals. If I click on calculate totals, it will show me the totals without saving to the means those changes to the database. If we save it, then obviously, yeah, there will be entry or that those pay code hours or punch hours are saved to the database, to the time card. And coming to the bottom one, so all these tabs or can be configured while creating a new time card widget or like that. Yeah, but by default, these all will be available with the standard time card widget that comes with the installation. So accruals will discuss about each tab. So first one is totals. So where we could see the total number of hours that are segregated into different pay codes. So here employee worked some 31 hours, right? So those 31 hours are, means how those 31 hours are segregated and how those 31 hours will be paid for employee. Yeah, we can find under here. So if we see, so 19 hours will be paid as regular, and 8 hours will be paid as vacation, and 30 minutes, employee will get 30 minutes of overtime, and evening hours of 3.5 hours. We can also define base wages in the application for each employee. So when we have base wage defined, then we'll also see the wages information for each respective pay code based on the hours that they have worked under each of them. So for this employee, base wage is $10 per hour. So that's why for regular pay codes, so we could see 19 for 19 hours, we are seeing $190 for those 19 hours. And we could also see a vacation, obviously they'll be paid at the regular rate only. But when we see overtime for 30 minutes, he has to be paid. Means it is paid 1.5 times of their base wage. So here, yeah, instead of $5 for those half an hour, so employee is getting paid 7.5 or $7.50. And evening, we'll define for evening. I think here they're paying slightly higher, like 50 cents additional for each hour. So here we could see for those 2 hours. So instead of being paid at $10 per hour, employee is being paid $10.50. So that's why for those 2 hours, employee gets $21. And here we'll also see the default home account. So by default, all the hours that employee work are considered under their home account. That is also known as a primary labor account. We'll assign that in the people later. We'll discuss about that. But when employee perform any transfer, say for these 3 hours, let me do a transfer. So if I'm transferring these 3 hours, yeah, I selected some account. So when I save it, so those 3 hours we could see in a separate as a transferred one. So if we observe here, so those 3 regular hours are transferred or under a different account. So his employee's default or home account is 402 by 525, but whereas here it has been transferred to some 512 job. And when managers or employees, when they want to approve the time cards, so they'll do using this approve dropdown to approve time card. So as we are logged in as super user, we are also seeing options to remove the approvals as well. But yeah, for employees or managers, for managers, some organizations will give option to remove the approvals as well. Yeah, but for employees, they'll have only option to approve the time card. Similarly, when the time cards are approved, so it will denote or highlight us that there is an approval for this period. So to show us that time card will turn into different color. Yeah, so when there is only employee approval, then time card will show us for that period in orange color. When there is only manager approval, then it will show in this yellow color. When time card has both employee as well as manager approvals, then it will show in green color. And when it is signed off, yeah, it will turn into gray where we'll not be able to edit the time card. So let me approve as we logged in as super user again. So super user approval is taken as the manager approval and I'm trying to sign off. So when the time cards are signed off, as we could see, since everything turns into gray and we'll not be able to edit any of the data here. Okay, and we can perform sign off only in previous pay period, which is the best practice. If I try to perform sign off in current pay period, then it will pop up an error message saying that it can only be performed in previous pay period. Okay, so that's the standard or best practice. But if we still want to sign off current pay period, yeah, we can do that. We can change system settings of the application and we can make or allow sign off in the current pay period also. But yeah, that's not the recommended or the best practice. Okay.
Vardhan?
Yeah.
The layout that we are seeing here on the screen, next to the pay code, the amount field.
Yeah.
But ideally, we are entering the hours here, the vacation or whatever absence that the employee is going on. So
yeah.
Can the layout be changed to either amount or hours, the header? Because that will be a confusing.
We can configure like this column to other place.
Yes.
Yeah, those can be configured.
The header column.
I'm talking about the header column.
This one I understood. This amount, right? Instead of amount, you want to see it as hours.
Yes.
Yeah, we can customize all these things.
Okay. Okay.
And if you want multiple in and out in the same row, so in that case, we can also add like in out here and then transfer, and after that in and out. Yeah, like that also we can do it.
Vardhan, you said sign off. I mean, what's the concept? Is it that once I enter, then later on, if I ought to exit the timesheet, then I'll just put it as sign off. So that means it will be stored.
Yeah, usually we'll do sign off once in a pay period. Suppose for this week, so when we are starting next Monday,
Okay.
so by that time the entire previous week's data will be done, right? So where employee would have already worked and he logged his hours, right? So in that case, yeah, we can review the time cards for the previous pay period. So let's say here
Okay,
I'm
okay,
checking
got
out
it,
with
got it. So it's something like
Rajat.
completely submitting the timesheet that I am done with the complete input of the times for that particular period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And save is just more of just saving that sheet. That's okay. Okay.
Saving those changes.
So I was just looking that if there is any option of submit button where it goes to manager for approval or something. So it's more of a sign off. That means I'm done. By default, it goes for approval, correct?
Yeah. Because means yeah, managers will directly access their time cards and they'll perform their approvals on that.
Good. Thanks.
And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, that this remove sign off and all will not be given access for managers or other users. Where if they want to remove the sign off, then they'll be connecting with respective system admins or local admins, and they'll perform the if they want to make changes, and if payroll is not processed yet, and then they'll remove the sign off and make the quick changes to the time card, and then they'll again upwards sign off the time cards.
Can the sign off be done without the employee approving the time card? I mean, now you are the super user, so that you are able to sign off. But in general, can the manager or the payroll manager can sign off without the employees approving the time card?
Yes, yes. There is no restriction that employee or manager approval should be done only after employee approval, or sign off should be done only after manager approval, like that. So yeah, there is no it will not restrict like that. Yeah, we can go ahead and sign off if everything is good. So usually they'll have everyone will have deadlines. Let's say by end of Monday or by 4 p.m. on Monday. So all the time cards should be reviewed and approved and signed off. So if payroll manager before processing the payroll, let's say on Thursday or sorry on Tuesday afternoon, so they'll check okay everything is okay, and if they still see some of the time cards which are not signed off, then they'll directly sign off those time cards and run the interfaces to extract the data. Okay. There is no restriction as such, but that's the practice that everyone will follow. So that, which means if you are proving the time card, means we are aware like how many hours are there, and we are clear with what pay or how many hours that employees will be paid for that periods.
Can we make any restriction? I mean, do we have any setting to make the employee approval mandatory or manager approval mandatory before signing off?
We have something called sign-off restrictions, where suppose if there is any missed punch in the time card, then we can say that the sign-off should not be done, or sign-off should fail for those employees when there are missed punches or unexcused absences, those kind of exceptions. So that way, yeah, managers will definitely go there and fix those missed punches before performing the sign-offs.
Oh.
Usually, Arun, this is more of a punch in, punch out. So usually, employees would not have access to edit this this one. I think more of what we are seeing is more of a manager access where to see what has the employee punched in. Because if they're given access, I think only those exceptions like vacation, absences, that I think they'll have access. Is that correct, Vardhan? My understanding?
Yeah, correct. Employees usually will not be given access to even edit the time cards. They can only
Exactly,
log, punch in, punch out, or request time offs. And very few organizations where they can go and edit their time cards. Yeah, but again, it depends on employee role and which access that organization want to give for different users, different types of
like
employees.
maybe salespeople, they might have access to input there because they don't have punching field service or managers or salespeople would have access for editing. Okay.
Yeah, I think we are good to stop here. Yeah, we can continue tomorrow.